1. Driven to center field, pushing Holt back. Plenty of room. Looking to tag will be Done. Catch made. A little pump fake, and he fooled everybody. Now a late break, and the throw home is in time. Peyton Lowe with a pump fake on the catch. The runners had to reassess, and he ends up with a double play. That is the ultimate deep. Chris Burke, you ever seen that?
I've seen it before, yes. I've never seen it work. And you talk about working to perfection. Watch, Peyton Hole's going to get below this ball, act like he's going to catch it high, and then catches it lower than anticipated. Kind of acts like he's about to catch it, and completely dekes Done at third base, who cannot recover. What a play by the Razorback center fielder.
Welcome to Chasing Omaha. I'm your host, Matt McGowan. We're here with the one and only Mitch Kellogg. Mitch, thanks for being back with us.
Matt, always a pleasure to see you, buddy. Thank you for having me back on. Really excited for this to get back into it with you guys and start talking. And yeah, man, thanks again.
Absolutely. I mean, another great weekend of baseball. We had the pleasure of actually watching a game together, which is pretty awesome. We watched Oregon State kind of, get into a pretty good battle with Oregon, but I think Oregon State's pitching again is so dominant that they just handled business. We got to see the deke of the century.
Unbelievable.
Arkansas center fielder. If you haven't seen it, you got to see it. We're happy to be here, man. We're excited. We're here with the Baseball Bluebook, and we're at their studios, and we're just so super pumped to be with them and to be a part of it. Mitch, top 10's changed since you've been here. Been weeks since you've been on the show, and your boys from Tennessee, they're moving on up.
Moving on up, baby. Rocky top all the way to the top. Here we go. Tennessee looking good, climbing the board, baby, inch by inch. They're getting back up there. But another big top 10 thing that I think is unbelievable is Wake Forest is climbing back into the top 10. They start the season number one. They drop down to 20s. I don't even know. Maybe they were out at one point. No. They were out, right? Yeah, I think they were out. And look at them clawing their way back into the top 10. Unbelievable to be able to have some resiliency like that and turn it around.
I'm going to take 100% credit for this. I roasted them the last 2 weeks about how on paper, they're the best team in college baseball, and they're just not living up to it. And I don't know why, and I don't know when they're going to figure it out, but it looks like they're figuring it out. And that's huge. I also think, playing some of the teams in their schedule right now, which is giving them a lot of confidence, is
absolutely
a huge thing for them right now. It's going to be exciting. I think the ACC is truly up for grabs. The ACC tournament's going to be amazing. I just think that it's going to be something that, obviously everyone's going to talk about the SEC, but the ACC has 3 of the best teams in the country.
Listen, it's SEC, it's ACC, man. That's the tide that this college baseball landscape is turning. Those are it. That's going to be the big ones for a long time to come. And it's just the way that the game has turned into with the new rules that we've talked about all season long with everything else going on. Those are the conferences that kids are looking to play in. Those are the conferences they're looking at really trying to establish themselves to get to. They're going to forego the Big Ten. They're going to forego all that stuff. They might take a JUCO year or a gap year to try to get into the SEC, try to get into the ACC. That's kind of where the landscape of baseball is at right now.
No, I think you're absolutely right. I think you're seeing a huge divide. But I think you're seeing it, and we've talked about this in the past, and I'll bring it up again now. It's money. The SEC truly cares about baseball. The ACC cares about baseball, and they're willing to put money into NIL deals that the USCs, the UCLAs are not doing. The fact that the Pac-12, which is now going to be gone after next year, the fact that USC and UCLA, which has the studios. I mean, it's California. You're on the beach. They have more money than they know what to do with. And every major film director either goes
Yeah.
to USC or NYU. And
Hey,
the fact that
80. You would think with $80,000 a year for each student, someone could come up with a little chunk of change for somebody to keep them around.
makes too much sense. But
Makes
no,
way too much sense.
and we'll bring it up, later on in the show, what my thoughts about what's going to happen with California baseball. And I've brought it up before, but I'd love to get your take on it. But right now we got to talk about, the SEC is just flat out playing great baseball, and Texas A&M is doing everything they can. Their pitching is unbelievable. Their offenses are scoring when runners are on base, which is huge. I mean, home runs, yes, but runner on second base, ball the other way, driven. It's little things like that that separates teams, especially when they get to Omaha, where they're going to be prepared to handle, the pressures of what Omaha brings and them chasing a title.
Absolutely. Yeah, they're playing really good baseball. They were playing really good baseball all year, but finally they figured it out to get to get a jump on Arkansas. Took advantage of some things. They're playing really well. But it's getting to that point of the season where teams are going to get hot, right? This is where really coming into your stride late in the season, your pitching starting to figure itself out. Your offense is executing at a high level. You're scoring the runs, and you're winning the one-run ball games. You're winning the ball games that are tight, that give you the momentum, that gives you that little, pizzazz, I want to say, to get into the playoffs and give you a chance, give you a sense of like something special is going to happen. And Texas A&M is on that ride right now.
Absolutely. You bring up Arkansas and them being number 2 and how Texas A&M, overcame them. And they're a tough battle, man. They're a tough team. They got real grit. They got some really, really talented players. The deke that fielder put on everybody is unreal. Absolutely unreal. For those that didn't see it, he pump faked that the ball before he actually caught it. So the runner had tagged up, got off the base, realized that the ball was not in his glove, had to go back. The center fielder throws it to third base. The third baseman throws it at home, and they get the guy out to save a run against Florida, a really good Florida team. Unstinking believable. The best part about it, too, is the third base coach. When you watch the video, you have to watch his reaction. It's classic. Absolutely
priceless.
classic.
Priceless. Every coach who's been a coach has been there at some point where it's just like, what is going on here? But unbelievable. Such a level of IQ, right? Such a level of practice, such a level of some sort of savvy. Obviously, he's not coming up with that, pulling it out of his pant pocket. You know what I mean? That's something that's been worked on, that's been talked about at some point, and to execute at that point in a big game, one-run ball game, is huge. It's huge. It changed the landscape of the game, changed the entire game for them at that point. Kids got to be watching that stuff, man, because it's unbelievable and it's awesome. And I'm sure high school kids all over the country now are going to be starting to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we're going to teach it, and I think it's going to be something you're going to see at the younger levels. I mean, growing up, we used to run a high-low play where, the right fielder or left fielder would come over to the center fielder and pretend like they caught it first to try to get someone to deke out. But it was the way he did it was absolutely awesome. And if you haven't seen it, again, please go see it. That's 2 weekends in a row, though, Mitch, where we've had, some of the plays of the year in the outfield. Oakland, the home run that the guy robbed, where he literally popped it back over the fence. The center fielder lays out and catches it last week. This week we have the center fielder deking, throwing guys out. This is, what else do you want? This is it. This is where it's at.
And to get it from the outfield positions, right? So many casual fans, outfield, catch the fly ball, do this or that. You're seeing some absolutely phenomenal outfield play, and it's awesome to get them some airtime. You know what I mean?
It's great because 90% of our listeners, okay, when they say, "Hey man, your kid's gonna go play right field," they're like, "Oh, my kid's not. He has to get off this team. He has to leave. He has to go somewhere else." Like, we're not right fielders. Like the fact that people don't realize how important outfield positioning is and how to do it the right way, even at a young travel ball level. I mean, this is what it's going to be. I mean, I remember there was a kid, Jackson Benatar, he wanted to play shortstop. Hey, guess what, man? You're not a shortstop. You're going to be the best outfielder, you could be. He's the number one center fielder in California. I mean, that stuff matters. I mean, look at
It does.
Zach Freeman over at Ohio State. I mean, played second base, into his sophomore year, freshman year of high school, sophomore year of high school. And then we were like, hey, man, you got to move over to center field. You're just too athletic. He does it. It's propelled his career. A lot of people don't realize how important learning the basics and that IQ in the outfield at such an early age is going to extend your career. There's 3 positions in the outfield you can play. At second base, there's only one. At shortstop, it's only one guy. In the outfield, you could be a really good outfielder. You got 3 spots. You can earn a spot because you got to be, top 3 guy.
It's true. 100%, man. It's completely underrated. Outfield play is the most underrated thing. I think in the game defensively, some people argue catching. I think catching is the most recognized, underappreciated position, but most underrated. How important it is outfield play for sure.
No, absolutely. I mean, we saw a game this week at a high school game where left fielder trips over himself, gets up, makes a perfect relay throw to the cutoff man, after cutting the ball off, and then the cutoff man throws the guy out at third base to save a run
Just
before the
composure.
scores. Like, it's little things like that where if you weren't conditioned to understand what you're doing, that's a run. That you lose that game. You don't have an opportunity to get an. And
chaotic moment, going back to what you have to do. Understanding, hey, I need to get the ball to cutoff man, not trying to do too much and airmail that thing 75 feet off target, and just understand, hey, man, get the ball in. Let's try to make something happen, minimize damage. It was unbelievable. It was great play. Great recovery.
It was awesome to watch. Good for that kid. Shout out to Brian Martinez, man. Great play. I mean, we've kind of jumped around right now, but one team that I'm super impressed with, and if you didn't see this week, bunted 7 times in a game. Okay, we don't see that very often, but UC Irvine, I mean, they are tough. They're tough. They play small ball. They hit and run. They base run. We've talked about them a couple times on the show, but this weekend, I mean, is a culmination of exactly what I think will allow them to separate themselves if they do make it to Omaha, because I don't know how many bunt coverages people actually have in the SEC or what they're actually using, if they even use them, because we don't see many bunts in the SEC. That's just a flat out fact. Maybe one a game. But you have 7, okay? You're bunting 7 times. You're moving runners. You're push bunting. You're squeezing. This stuff is all stuff that, when you get to Omaha, you have a very limited amount of time to practice and prepare. That's something that I think might really affect teams, because how are you going to position certain guys in certain areas? I think UC Irvine, if they can get out of the West Coast, is going to be really dangerous.
Listen, I absolutely love the dedication to execution, as I call it, right? The dedication to executing, team plays, understand the bunt, right? And living and dying by it. You're going to bunt. Hey, man, it's Augie ball, it's small ball, it's West Coast style, whatever you want to call it. There's a reason it's the style of offense that's been around the longest. Through all these other hey, we're going to go for the long ball. Hey, we're going to do this or that. The bunting with your leadoff guy on is the only style of offense that still gets played no matter where, for the longest. And it's because there is an absolute statistic that shows that helps score runs.
100%.
It's not punches and bunches. You're playing for 1 run a game. And when it works, it's unstoppable. It's absolutely unstoppable. You can't defend it because you no longer have to have a hit. And for the West Coast style teams, when they get deeper in to, if they get out of the West Coast and they start playing these other teams that have really dominant pitching, it helps them so much, because now they don't have to stack hits against a guy who's upper 90s with a off the table slider. Now you just got to put the ball in play. You just got to make contact. It simplifies it so much, and they do it to perfection.
Yeah, no, they're they're the class of bunting for sure, and just execution, like you said, which I think is not being taught at the younger levels. I mean, we see high school games all the time, Mitch, and there's guys that, hey, first and second, nobody out, we're swinging it, ground ball, double play, shoot yourself in the foot type situation. Where, hey man, if you bunt here, now you got second and third, one out. Give
Yeah,
yourself an opportunity or two. And
yeah,
I think so
absolutely.
and I think so many people at the younger levels, not necessarily, you don't have to necessarily bunt every time it's first and second, or runner on first. But if that's not something you're communicating with players at the younger levels and teaching them, the IQ, that's what makes them better baseball players, right? Like, letting them know, like, hey, this is what really should be done in this situation. And yes, we swing drop fives and we're 12 years old and I'm not going to have you bunt. That's fine. But if you're not practicing bunting or you're not doing it, how can you expect your player to be ready when they get to the high school level? And that's what's asked of them to do, right? So
Absolutely. No, listen. I think obviously bunting is important. You have to learn it, but I think the underlying thing is learning to bunt at a younger age shows dedication. It shows willpower, right? Because when it comes down to bunting, you just have to outcompete the baseball, right? You got to stick your nose in it. You can't be scared of it, and you get it done 8 times out of 10. When you literally put your face behind the bat and say, "I'm bunting this ball, and I'm just going to outcompete it to happen." That teaches a kid something at a young age. It teaches that you can outcompete certain things. You're having a, crummy at bat. Hey, I just got to, outcompete this at bat, battle some pitches off. It's resiliency, right? And it's buying into the team product. It's buying into scoring and winning games. There's too many eye guys in young youth baseball and the younger stages of baseball right now. And not necessarily their fault, but it's because of what they're seeing and the product that's been out for a couple of years now. But it's the kids that don't buy into that and get into the team aspect that really flourish, especially later on in their careers.
you're absolutely right. 100%. I can't agree more. We're coming up to the break. Stick around. This is Chase in Omaha. We're here sponsored by the Baseball Bluebook. If you haven't checked out the Baseball Bluebook, you're not doing yourself a service. Great resources, excellent stuff all the way around. Check out the Baseball Bluebook. Get in the book. Also, the Baseball Playground. If you haven't checked it out, if you like what you're listening to, come take a look at our podcast. We have a great thing going. We've had guys like Paul Skeens, Rock Riggio, some of the best kids in the country. Take a listen. Love to hear some comments as well. We'll see you after the break. Stick around.
Hello and welcome to a Baseball Bluebook bullet point. Today I'm going to talk about something that is under-discussed and is of real importance with regard to development of student athletes as they progress from high school and into college and possibly beyond. And that is the power of breathing. And I say this and I get a smile from a lot of people, but it's very important to understand that we do not spend enough time as student athletes understanding our ability to and release and to be relaxed. It is very important to be relaxed mentally and physically when we're expected to perform at a very high level. And so what I try to tell student athletes is when the moments get big and there's stress and you can feel the anxiety and the stiffness and tightness, it is important to step out, recognize, and breathe and kind of take a really big deep breath in and then fully exhale, let it out. These are the types of tips that really, if you try to implement these into your daily routines, both practice as well as in game, you will find that you'll be more relaxed and be able to perform at a higher level on a much more regular basis. These types of tips offer small separation points for student athletes to recognize that we're at our best when we are fluid and relaxed and not stressed and really tight. For this and other tips, please take a moment, subscribe to our channel, spread the word, find that most of our viewers are not subscribers, and I would really love to build not only the subscriber base, but to allow the content to be driven by you and your questions. For this and any other type of information and feedback, please leave a comment below, and anything where you feel that we can help you with regard to your baseball development.
Welcome back to Chasing Omaha. I'm your host, Matt McGowan. I'm here with the one, the only, the man, the myth, the legend, Mitch Kellogg.
Listeners, how we doing? Matt, always a pleasure as always, buddy. Again, thank you for having me on to talk a little shop with you. Always love it, man.
Mitch, you are a quintessential guy in the community of baseball. I mean, you do catching stuff. You're a big time guy, especially in the LA, California area. My question to you is this, and this is something I brought up last week, and I think it has to be addressed because as a coach, I don't really see the landscape of what's going to happen, and I want to get my kids as prepared as possible. I want to get the listeners' kids as prepared as possible. And the reality is this: the Pac-12 is gone. Okay, USC is not very good. They don't even have a field for the next couple of years. UCLA, no offense to them, it just doesn't seem like it's gelling as it used to. Arizona State moving on. Oregon moving to the Big Ten. Oregon State. It's just an interesting transition. My question to you is this: where are these top talent, top flight California high school baseball players gonna go? Because I have an opinion, but I'd love to hear your thoughts because the reality is it's the best baseball in the country. I mean, statistically speaking, right? Like we have guys that go all over the place. We have kids that are, there's kids that are 6'8", left-handed, throwing 98 miles an hour. You don't see that very often anywhere in the country. And we face a guy every week in our league, and our league is okay. That's in the 90s. I mean, it's a different beast. It's a different animal. Talk to me. What do you think? Where do you think these guys are going to go if they're not going Pac-12 because it's gone?
Yeah, it's a yard sale for players right now, man. The coaches are seen as a yard sale, man. They're going to go in. They're going to cherry pick some guys. I still think there's hope, right? I think there's hope for some of these schools that are moving on from the Pac-12. I think there is some hope for them to retain some of the local guys, specifically the Arizona crowd. I think wherever they go, I think a selling point is, hey, we're going to be able to travel. We're going to be playing other places, but it's not too crazy. I think that's going to be a selling point for schools like that. I don't think USC and UCLA are going to be able to keep guys around. I think they're going to really get a big hit because of a few things. I think the price of the schooling, especially USC, for the amount of scholarships they're able to give, and then to have to travel and do all that and just get beat up around the country. I just don't know if kids are going to buy into that. I wouldn't be surprised to see the SEC just literally just blanket the entire area. I think Southern California is going to get a lot of recruitment out of Southern California from these SEC teams. I think JUCOs are going to be at a premium too. I think a lot of kids who don't have the ability or don't get seen by the out-of-state schools and all that stuff, I think JUCOs are going to be a spot that they land. I think for at least 2 years during this transitioning period, JUCOs are going to be really big. I think the JUCO level baseball is going to be amazing around California. And then it's going to loosen. It's going to lack because then the recruiters are going to get more familiar with the area. The SEC recruiters, the ACC guys, they're going to get way more familiar with the Southern California, the California area, and then they're going to get in there, right? So I think there's going to be like a 2-year lull, and I think in 2 years, the SEC is going to flood in. You're going to see a lot of guys go into SEC, ACC, and I think that's just the way it happens.
Yeah, I agree with some of the things you're saying. I think the reality to me is Texas and Oklahoma, who are now in the SEC, are going to flood this market. I
Yeah.
think 2-hour flight. It's not too crazy. Parents can go there. Parents in California, instead of going to USC paying 80,000, hey, you know what? Let's put 1 year tuition on a house out in Texas, and it's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, nice little house in Coppin, Texas, or Round Rock.
Wherever.
Yeah, and you know what? I'm gonna go see my kid play every other weekend, and I'm gonna have a place to stay and do that stuff. And I think that's really where we're gonna see a lot of these California kids. I really think it's gonna be those TCUs, the Texases, the Oklahomas, Oklahoma States, because it's close enough where their family can travel. It's not a burden to fly 5 hours or 6 hours or things like that. And not only that, it's close enough where they're still going to be in the SEC and playing the best baseball in the country, or
Oh,
they're
yeah,
still going to play some of these teams like Arizona, Arizona State,
for
things like
sure.
that. I really think, the team that's really going to suffer is going to be like a Stanford, or, some of these higher, educational schools where it's really tough to get into, number one. But hey, you know what? Like, if I'm going to go play on the East Coast a majority of the time, why don't I
Save
just go
some
to
money.
why don't I just go to Columbia though?
Yeah,
Right?
right.
Like, why don't I just go play at Harvard, or things like that? Because if you're getting into Stanford, I would say,
You have a good
75%,
shot. It's not guaranteed, but you got a good shot. Yeah.
you have a great shot of getting into those Ivy League schools. And since the majority of your games are going to be on the East Coast or Southeast, like, hey, why not just go there?
Yeah.
And I think you're going to see the Ivy League get better because a lot of these West Coast kids that were going to go to Cal or going to go to Stanford or USC or some of these schools might go, hey, you know what? I might go to Cornell. I might go to, some of these, you know, Ivy League schools or some of these schools, since why not? Because I'm already going to be out here. I might as
Yeah.
well do it. So
Yeah, go ahead.
I just think that you're going to see. I think you're going to see Texas and Oklahoma dominate. I think you're going to see them quickly adapt to the SEC baseball landscape and be able to dominate immediately. If they don't get into California, I don't think they're in any conversation baseball wise. And I
Yeah.
know that that's a harsh reality, and people are saying Texas baseball, Texas is this, Texas is that. And you're absolutely right. And 100%, I agree that Texas has fantastic baseball players. But the reality is this: if they're going to the SEC and you're a top prospect and Texas is looking at you, every single SEC school is looking at you. And why would you not go to LSU and play in front of 5,000 guys? Or why would you not go to Vanderbilt or some of these schools? You're already in that conference. Your family's going to already have to travel to those places. Why would you not do that?
Yeah. Now, my question, Matt, we're obviously talking about the top 1%, right? These kids are in the top 1% that have an opportunity to go there. I wouldn't be surprised if the level of baseball in the Big 10, the Big 12 also get better. Because I could definitely see an Iowa, a Nebraska coming in saying, hey, listen, we're going to save you a bunch of money. You're talking to USC. How about you come play with us? You're going to be out here anyways playing all these other schools. Let's get you set up. And they're going to be able to give some stuff. They're going to be able to understand it. I think they're going to blanket that area too. And I think it's going to raise the bar for those guys. Definitely not to the level of the SEC. Definitely not to the level of the ACC. But it's going to raise that bar. And it's going to really widen that gap. You know what I mean?
I brought it up last time. The fact that Ohio State doesn't plant a flag in California with all the money they have the most money of any school, I believe, in the Big Ten. Okay. And the fact, and maybe Michigan's number one, but
Sure.
it's very close, right? Ohio State, Michigan. The fact that those teams aren't just planting a flag and being like, I might not be able to get the top 25 or 30 players in Southern California, but I can get the next 5. Okay. And you know what? My team is better because I have the next 5 guys who have played 120 games in a season since their freshman year of high school. And now they're 480 games in, opposed to the kid that's in Ohio, in Dublin, Ohio, or some, small town in Lansing, Michigan or whatever, like playing 50 games a year total. Like, the quality of the baseball is drastically different. I mean, it's going to be something that if they don't tap into, it's going to become, and I've talked to you about this before, it's going to become college football in the sense that you're going to have the top 10 teams every year the same. And
Yeah.
that's not what we want. We want those UC Irvines. We want Kentucky. We want, Duke and like that coming in.
Yeah. No, I agree, man. And that's, it's the beauty of the game, right? You love the fact that on any given year, something crazy could happen. You could get a Coastal Carolina, you get a Stony Brook into Omaha. You get these awesome things because people have a shot, people got a chance. There's all this stuff. The portal wasn't obviously a thing, and all that stuff. But I agree. I think there's going to be a big vacuum for guys that are out here. And where they end up is going to depend on a lot of things. But it's interesting for the landscape. I think it's going to make the best better. I think it's going to raise everything up. I think it's going to really raise college baseball up in a good way. And I think the West Coast gets left behind.
I think I think they're done. I think that
the West Coast gets left behind. I think all the Pac-12 schools come in third or worse in the conference that they become, wherever they land, because the reality is it's just not going to work out for them.
No, absolutely, and I think that it's going to be a cultural shift for them. You're going to play in some cold weather, USC and UCLA, and they're not used to that. I mean, the coldest it gets is 65, 70 degrees at Washington. Yeah, with a little rain. Okay, that's fine. Hey, guess what? You're playing in the snow. It just snowed in Iowa, and you know what? Guess what? You're playing a game
Yeah.
because they're gonna heat the field and it's gonna melt it off, or they're gonna push the snow.
Yeah, you're 28 degrees at first pitch, bud. Get ready.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think you're going to see a drastic difference. I do think the only way that, or the only thing that I could see is that USC going into the Big Ten might be able to start getting into some kids from Ohio or Michigan or Iowa to come there, because it's like, hey, you'll still be able to play in front of your family and things like that, and you'll be in the West Coast and you'll be able to get in the heat and be on the beach. But that's not what you want to do if you have the best baseball in the country in your backyard.
Not going to happen, man. USC is creme de la creme. They only recruit from these certain schools that we all know. And it's very picky. They pass up a lot of good guys that are around the area that have the talent to do it, but they just they let them slip. They let them slide away.
Well, and that's why they're not successful, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's why, they're not getting those kids from Glendale High School, like they used to get in the 70s and win championships. And in the 90s, they're getting, kids from Chatsworth High School who, Chatsworth is one of the most prolific programs in the history of Los Angeles. Not so much anymore, but that's what it was. You're not getting any of those kids. You're going after the, modern day kid who, has been in one playoff game because you're in the Trinity League and all those kids go to LSU, Wake Forest, or these other big schools. So, you're not winning baseball games. You're not beating up teams that you should be beating up. And it's sad to see. And the reality is this, I went to a USC game and I knew a kid on the team last year and I thought he was an awesome player. But the reality is it's boring baseball. It's a lot of kids that I think are in it for themselves. And unfortunately, that's not a winning brand of baseball, and that's why they don't win. And I think that's what you're seeing. I think you're seeing that at UCLA. UCLA recruiting 8 shortstops. Hey, guess what? That's awesome, man. I truly appreciate you recruiting 8 guys, but 4 of them are leaving. 5 of them are leaving, as they should. And they're going to go somewhere, and they're going to dominate, and they're going to be guys, and you're still going to be a disaster because you don't want to get that backyard kid who, maybe you have to develop for 2 years and like a Bauer or a Garrett Cole and then come out and shove. So I just think it's sad that the Pac-12 is leaving, but it's also going to make it's going to be awesome to see everyone move on and move forward and see who really comes into the area. And I wouldn't be surprised if certain SEC schools make it like a professional scouting type thing where they just move guys out here and say, hey, you live in California and you report back to us, and this is what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't be surprised at that at all. Try to give some teams an edge and see what they can come up with and what they can find, and really embed themselves, and see what happens.
Yeah, Raising Cane's, I'm sure, has no problem donating some money to the LSU,
Yeah.
equipment manager. Go live over here and recruit all these California kids.
Yeah.
Which at this point, heck, they need it, man. Like they're playing all right baseball, but it seems like some of them take some selfish at bats, trying to pad some stats, and unfortunately, that's just not going to get done this year. Last Beans and everyone, they were a team. They were a tight knit group, and I just think like right now they're a little more individual than they are team.
Yeah, I think they felt the pressure early on. I don't know this for sure. It seems like there might be something going on internally with the team. Like you're saying, it's something off, something different. For as good of a team that they are and they should be, it's just it's not horrible, but it's not where the expectation would be coming off a big year with some key returning guys. Yeah, big shocker, huge shocker in my opinion. But that's the way the cookie crumbles. That's just how it goes sometimes.
You're absolutely right. That is the way the cookie crumbles. We're chasing Omaha. I'm Matt McGowan. We're here with Mitch Kellogg. We're at the Baseball Bluebook Studios. Thank you so much for listening. We are coming up to a break. Again, if you like what you're listening to, you want to hear more about college baseball, recruiting, all that stuff, definitely check out the Baseball Playground and the podcast that we run. But also, if you're really into baseball and you want to get better and understand resources, the Baseball Bluebook, there's nothing better than that. Definitely take a look at that. Get in the book. Get your family, friends, anyone who's interested in it, get in it, because it truly is going to be the next big thing. It's going to be a resource that every baseball player needs to make it to that next level, whether it's high school or college. So stick around. We're coming back after the break. Thanks so much.
Hello and welcome to another edition of the Baseball Bluebook Bullet Point. Today I want to cover a topic that is in very, very high levels of discussion on social media platforms, and that is arm strength / velocity. I want to use a metaphor here, and I want to try to tell parents that I can take an engine of any high, very fast car, Lamborghini, Corvette, etc., and I can take that engine and I can put it into a Prius or a Volkswagen Bug. If I take that car out on a highway, once the engine is installed, I'm going to hit that gas pedal and I'm going to get a lot of power and I'm going to go very fast. But my biggest concern is the brakes were built for a Prius or a Volkswagen Bug. They weren't built for a Corvette. So it's the braking system that I need to be concerned with. And this is an analogy that is no different than your son's arm strength or fastball velocity, as we affectionately refer to it. And I want to let parents understand is there is a natural progression that you should be adhering to. And the first is arm health, which will lead to arm strength. And really focus on the areas, the rear heads of the shoulder, the scapula, those types of muscle groups, allow them to be worked as much as the front of the shoulder and your bicep tendon and all those things that go into throwing a baseball. And what I want to is at no time should you be solely focused on how hard your son is throwing at any age up and through junior and senior year, where the relevance of that will begin to come more into play. We need to allow for more natural physical progression through Mother Nature with the addition of strength training, properly supervised, throwing multiple objects such as footballs and softballs as well as baseballs. Don't fall in love with the gadgets or the gadgets, and more importantly, don't fall in love with the gurus. Allow your children to naturally progress, developing arm strength. As it pertains particularly to pitching, make sure your son or daughter at a young age is able to locate a glove side fastball, meaning if they're a right-handed pitcher, they should be able to hit the outside corner consistently to a right-handed hitter. And once they are able to throw strikes consistently with their fastball, inside, outside, up and down, etc., begin to integrate pitches such as changeups, we get all this discussion with regard to curveballs and so forth. Not so much curveballs worried about from a health perspective, but are we trying to fool hitters as opposed to compete versus hitters? Take my advice, allow your children to compete more with hitters at younger ages, and that will help them as they get older. If you have any questions for this type of a topic, or you'd like to hear things that I can discuss with regard to youth baseball, please be sure and put them down in the comments below. I welcome that. More importantly, hit the subscribe and the notification button so that we can begin to share and grow the channel. Thank you.
Welcome back to Chasing Omaha. I'm Matt McGowan here with Mitch Kellogg. Just talking baseball, man. Talking college baseball. It doesn't get better than this, Mitch.
Doesn't. This is the best, man. It's the best college baseball's ever been. And it's so awesome to be able to follow it like we do and be able to talk about it, man. It's nothing beats it. I hope our listeners enjoy it as much as we do. We love doing it. We want to hear your thoughts at some point here soon, and hopefully you guys are enjoying all the stuff that we love talking about.
Yeah, and if you don't, I definitely want to hear it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, if you absolutely hate it, please let us know.
Yeah, DM us and let me know. Like, Matt, you suck, and I'll be like, I'll get better. That's how we go, right?
Yeah.
We grind and survive, right? I mean, that's
right.
how we got to do it.
That's 100% right.
You don't like my take on Wake Forest? Let me know. Come on, let me hear it. Couple little things that I definitely want to bring up before we get done today is we're coming to the end of the year, or not the end, but we're coming down the stretch, and I want to know who you think, Mitch, are some teams that people should be looking at, or teams you think are going to make a late push into being, somebody that is going to have a real solid chance of winning the national championship.
Yeah. So I got two and a half that I'm looking at. I call it three, but first one, I like Duke a lot. I think Duke's been they haven't been amazing, but they have been consistent. They have been consistent all year. They play a phenomenal baseball. They've been a staple in the top 10 practically all season. Really like the brand of baseball they're playing over there. I think if things keep going their way, they get hot with the bats coming down the stretch here. I think they're going to have a really, really good chance of going deep and getting into Omaha and really making a run at it. Second, I really like Vanderbilt. I like the way that they've turned the season around. I like the way they turned their season around. Started off slow. Tim Corbin keep getting the boys ready to go, though not losing the faith, playing really, really well as of late, just outside the top 10, but they've been there before. The staff's been there before. They're tried and true. They're the blue bloods. You know what I mean? They know how to get there and how to win. It's really hard for me to count out a Tim Corbin Vanderbilt team. Finally, my dark horse right here coming out of left field is Oklahoma, man. Oklahoma's been on an absolute tear as of late. Coming in top 10, or I'm sorry, they're ranked 18th now. They're outside of the top 25, but they've just been really just hitting the ground running right now. And if this momentum keeps up, now they need a lot of help. I think things have to go really well and keep staying their way. But if they keep playing like they're playing right now, there's going to be some shock and awe going into the playoffs and coming down to the stretch here. That's obviously outside the top three, which are obviously really good baseball teams. I think everyone thinks that they're going to have a great run. But those are my three kind of outside looking in that I think could really have a good shot.
Yeah, I think you brought up some great teams. I mean, the team that I think is an absolute sleeper that I guarantee no one's talking about, and they have some of the best bullpen arms, I think, in the country, and is Kentucky. Kentucky is a sleeper. They are a dark horse. They're ranked 4th right now, and it's a slow climb. It's, hey, we don't want to. We're not flashy. There's no pizzazz. We're just kind of here. But I'm telling you right now, late in a ball game, they're going to throw 3 arms in the last 3 innings, and you're not going to get a hit. I mean, that's what they're doing right now. It's really, really, really tough. And not only that, they got a lefty reliever. They got 2 righty. I mean, and they mix them up. Like, oh, we got 2 lefties this inning. We're throwing the lefty this inning. We're throwing the righties coming in.
Yeah.
Like it's awesome because, again, when you think SEC baseball, you're not thinking Kentucky. You're thinking the Van, the LSU's, the Arkansas, Tennessee's, Texas A&M's, Ole Miss, Mississippi. I mean, Kentucky doesn't even come up on your radar for most fans. And I think Kentucky is a team, again, you gotta just pay attention to. I'm not saying they're going to win the whole thing. I think they just have a real good chance to sneak in and be a dark horse sleeper to win the SEC.
Yeah.
And then see how they do in a regional.
You know,
Because if they're winning games and depending on their draw, I really think they're going to be really, really hard. And I'd love to see them in Omaha. I'd love to hang out with their coach in Omaha when we're out there and just kind of, shoot it with him and see how this all came about. Because, I love picking coaches' brains, as you know, and
of
just
course.
see how it goes.
Yeah, Matt, I really like that. And they remind me of the Royals when they were on their streak, man. It's
Great, right.
it turns into a 7-inning game. You get to the 7th, it's done. You're not scoring 7, 8, 9. It's just not happening. You get to the 7th, it's over.
You're absolutely right. And that's how they're winning their games. I mean,
yeah.
Really, really tough, they're up three runs in the 7th. It's basically a done deal. I mean, and that's awesome because I love watching that because you're playing Georgia, you're playing these guys with offensive talent out of the yin yang, and they're making them look like high school kids hitting. It's awesome to see.
Yeah.
Another sleeper and another team that I think is going to be interesting, and they just cracked the top 5 this week, is Indiana State. Indiana State.
I love it.
Not one person can name one player on their team. Okay?
Nope.
But they are a big band of misfit toys, and they're there to wreck somebody's year. And that's exactly what they're going to do. They're going to get into a regional and they're going to beat somebody big. And everyone's going to be like, who saw this coming? Oh my God. And then everyone's going to say, Matt did with Chasing Omaha. That's who.
Yeah.
Because I have some money on the line saying I'm taking Indiana State.
Yeah.
And then, you know what? I might not need a radio show. I'm cashed out. Let's go. Adios.
The only guy on any media platform ever to take Indiana State to win a game in the playoffs. I love it.
If anyone from Indiana State's listening, you know what? Hashtag me, hashtag Chasing Omaha. All right, let's go Indiana State. I just think that they're playing a great brand of baseball. I think that their schedule is not hard enough to knock them out of the top 25. I think that with confidence, as you've seen as a coach, confidence is a huge momentum builder. And if you're playing really well going into the playoffs, I think it could really shock some people. And again, no one knows who Indiana State is.
Yeah.
So it's not Tommy Tanks. It's not, the Bear. It's not these guys where like, oh, you got to worry about this. It's like, who is this Joe Schmo from, Reading, Pennsylvania? Like no one knows who he is. Like, oh, great. He's at Indiana State and he dominates.
Yeah.
And I think that's something that people are going to have fun watching. And I think, again, you heard it here first. They're a sleeper. My last team, I think, is a sleeper that I think if they play well is going to really, really shock some people is Arizona. Arizona has been playing the best baseball they played all year these last couple of weeks. They swept some really good teams. They have a great group of kids in the sense that they're from Hamilton High School, Chandler High School, Mountain View. I mean, these are top 25 nationally ranked programs in high school baseball. I mean, they're getting top players in their own state, staying in their state. And you're seeing that baseball, they're young, but they're getting better. And I think they're going to be a sleeper. I think they're going to have a real good time because the Pac-12, again, is not very good. So they might have a really, really good chance to make some noise.
Okay, Matt, question for you. Way too early prediction. Have to put your money on one team. Takes it all this year. Who do you got?
Oh boy, I'm gonna go Tennessee.
That's my
I
boy, baby.
I think
Rocky Top.
I
Buying into the hype. You hated me for it early in the year, but you love them now. I love it.
I just think they're a real complete team, and I think their coach is an absolute savage. I think he doesn't get intimidated. I don't think he gets scared. I think he just puts it out on the line and it's just like, these are my best guys. Your best against my best, and let's see how it goes. And so far, it's working this year. But Tennessee is a complete team. And again, if you have not seen their shortstop, he is must-watch TV. He is unbelievable. I mean, best shortstop in the country, I think. And he's only a freshman,
Yeah.
which
Yeah, he's absolutely unbelievable. As listeners know, if you're a listener, you've been listening all year, you already know what my pick is. You know I've been on the train for a while with the Tennessee boys. And that'd be my pick too, because like you said, complete team. They win the close ball games, man. They win the close ball games, which in my opinion is the definition or a good teller of how good of a team you are and how much success you're going to have later in the year. And they do that. And they also have the ability to absolutely blow teams out. So I'm excited to see how it goes.
who's your team if you couldn't pick a top 10 team?
Ooh, couldn't pick a top 10.
Are you going to stick with Oklahoma?
If I have to pick one, I'm going Vanderbilt at 11 spot. At the 11
Yeah,
spot.
that's it.
Because
That's
I get
it. There.
it's Tim Corbin, man. It's Tim Corbin. He's been there. He knows how to win with any group, right? He's gonna get what he needs out of them. But yeah, so that's my pick. Another question for you, Matt. I haven't been on the show for a little bit now. Just wanted to check in. Are we still hating the Dodgers?
Yes, 100%. Dodger. Hey, I watched them today. They lost 3-1. I love it. I'm happy. Okay, like I'm an O's fan, baby, and my O's like they're playing okay. Jackson Holiday, I was hyped when he came up. He's down now. Like man, 2 hits and 30 at bats.
Tough,
Like it ain't
tough.
gonna do it. But I mean, it's one of those things where I just hate the fact that it's going to come down to like, hey, who can divert money, because that's what it's going to become. Like, I'll give you, $1 billion, but you got to take it in 60 years. Like,
Right.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that this experiment is not to the point where they're dominating in a way that it's like they're untouchable. They're
It's a
getting
letdown. Absolutely.
they're not playing great baseball. They're not hitting as well as everyone thought. They're not pitching as well. Glass now is a stud, but other than that,
Yamamoto not panning out so far.
I mean, I think I got some high school kids that might hit Yamamoto.
Well, he almost got his face taken off a couple games ago. Jeez Louise.
Well, I'm not really impressed with him. Shohei, yeah, he hits bombs and he's a great baseball player, but he's a DH. And I just think that outside of Mookie Betts, Mookie Betts is amazing. He's the best player I think in baseball. He does so much. He can literally play any position, probably besides catcher and pitcher.
Yeah, at the professional level, which is unbelievable.
He's
Yeah,
unreal. I will never root against Mookie Betts, but I do root against the Dodgers, and I think all of us listening should be rooting against the Dodgers because we want this experiment to fail,
yeah,
and we want them to go bankrupt because they've diverted so much money.
yeah. Mookie Betts also amazing bowler. Fun fact: amazing bowler. Guys, unbelievable.
Just like playing Kershaw ping pong, stick to ping pong.
Exactly.
Pitches anymore.
Yeah, no. Dodgers definitely not living up to the expectation. The first three hitters, they're top heavy, right? Nothing else in the lineup does anything right now. It's gonna be interesting to see how the rest of the season goes. I want to see how it comes after the All-Star break. We'll see it. We'll see how it pans out. We'll see how it shakes out. And
Take the playoffs because their division is weak, but I love the fact that they're not you know, they're not winning 100 games.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough based on the trajectory they're at now. That's for sure.
I love it.
I bet
They're
you
going to be
do.
worse than they were last year. Love it. Just so anyone else who has an issue, go O's. If you don't like it, DM me. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. He's going to get a lot of those. There you go.
yeah, Rushman's the man. Gunnar Henderson's the man. But no, Mitch, getting back into baseball, college baseball right now is the best it's been. It's coming down the home stretch. I'm gonna be in Omaha. I'm hoping you can make it out with us. I know Jacob's gonna be there. We're gonna try to get the Baseball Blue Book guys. We're gonna try to get a good collective group out there because I think college baseball deserves it, right? Like I don't think, ESPN does their stuff, but it's not to the level that they put into like any of the basketball or football stuff. And I just think it's not fair to these boys who put the hard work, sweat and tears into it. And I'm excited to be there. If you're out there, if you're in Omaha or you're in, any of those states and you're going to be coming in, we want you to be there. We're going to give out some stuff. It's going to be awesome, man. I'm so fired up.
Yeah, I'm hoping to make it. We'll see how it goes. If I can make it, it'll be awesome. I suggest to all of our listeners, you have to go at least once. It's a bucket list thing. You have to go. You got to go to downtown Omaha. You got to go to the TD Ameritrade Stadium's unbelievable. The old Blatt was amazing. It's the experience is second to none.
Yeah, no, I'm fired up. I'm excited. Mitch, we gotta do it again. We gotta have you next week. We gotta have you on. We gotta recap this whole thing. It's coming down the home stretch. I guess Rocky Top, here we come, right?
Rocky Top, all the way to the top, baby. I love it. I love that you're back on the wagon with me.
Thanks so much for listening. Thanks for sticking around. Check out the Baseball Blue Book if you need any resources baseball related. If you're bored and you want to listen to a great podcast, check out the Baseball Playground. Jacob Odell and myself, I feel like we do a pretty good job, Mitch. With some great
guests.
People.
Got some amazing guests. Yep.
Got some great stuff.
Yep.
Check it out, thebaseballplayground.com. We're on all the streaming platforms. Check it out. And then, again, Baseball Blue Book, man. Thank you so much for giving us this platform. And let's rock and roll. Mitch, have a great.
You too, Matt. Catch you next week, man.
Listeners, we'll see you next week.